Welcome to another episode of Bargain Saturdays, and this week I decided to take a look at MGM's version of Babes in Toyland, released back in 1997. Yeah, I know, I probably should straighten this out a bit, but hopefully it's somewhat legible down there. I mean, I guess it's a bit bigger on the back, but I'm not going to worry about it. But for starters, from what I've been told on the Wikipedia article about the original operetta, because this is based on an operetta, this is a very, 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 very loose adaptation of the original source material. So loose, in fact, that it has almost no connection to the original operetta. Basically, they kept one song and a few character names, and that was it. Everything else, I guess they decided to just push this aside and forget about it. As for why they did that, I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't care to waste the bandwidth, to go digging through sites hoping to find some background information on the film and why MGM made it the way they did. I mean, maybe the people working on the film didn't like the original operetta and wanted to do something different. I mean, that's one possibility. Maybe this originally was intended to be a different film altogether with its own original name, and someone, the executive brass decided to step in and just throw in the Babes in Toyland name on, because they figured if they licensed that name onto it, they'd sell a few more VHS tapes or DVDs, and that would be good enough for them, because, that's the case for some films, that's why you get films that, get brought over from foreign countries and they're given names like Kiara the Brave or, whatever else to try and get people to buy it thinking it's some other film. I mean, why do you think the true story of Puss in Boots was released around the time, Puss in Boots came out? That's the same thing going on here, maybe. I honestly, like I said, don't care too much about that. At least I hope I said that earlier. If not, I'm saying it now. But yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about, why this is named Babes in Toyland if it has such little to do with the original source material, because ultimately, that doesn't matter. I should judge it based on what the film itself does. Give me a second. My throat's getting dry. Ugh. I think I might be coming down with something. But as far as the film itself goes, it's alright. I mean, it's nothing grand in my opinion, but I'll have to admit I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, and this film definitely has a lot of musical numbers in its runtime. It has at least 7 or 8 different songs, spread out over about, an hour and 15 minutes or so of runtime, so there's a lot of songs they're going to throw out your way. I actually think it's listed as 74 minutes, so yeah, an hour 15 roughly. So yeah, there's a lot of musical numbers, which kind of doesn't draw my interest in the film. And I'm not saying they're bad musical numbers or anything, but they're nothing that's going to really get me pumped or excited or really sticks in my memory that much. I'm going to think, think of this film, I'm going to think of this song. It's going to take me back to some childhood nostalgia or something. I mean, maybe if you watch this film as a kid, you might hear those songs and it might bring back childhood memories, but for me, there's no connection there. So I hear these songs, I'm like, they're alright, but nothing to really write home about, in my opinion.
Papa built a factory he valued more than gold.
Though I'm not the biggest fan of holiday music to begin with, so that doesn't help either. Albeit these really aren't holiday songs, and you can argue this isn't really a holiday movie. Mainly because when it comes to the Christmas aspect of this film, basically we're told that Tom Piper is coming back, from the North Pole with a list of toys he has to build for Santa. And this has to be done in Toyland at the toy factory, within like 3 days. Because Tom Piper got delayed on his return trip because he crashed in the Goblin Forest, or was made to crash by Barnaby Crooked Man. Yeah, that's his last name. Crooked Man, because he's crooked. Like a criminal. Though, as one character put it,
"You're not crooked. You're twisted." Thank you so much.
I can't say he's wrong, saying this is a guy willing to commit murder.
Oh, scat. He's all broken up. That makes 2 of us.
In order to stop kids from receiving toys on Christmas, But as far as Barney's is concerned, kids should never be allowed toys, so he would destroy the factory regardless if Christmas was coming up or not. So like I said, Christmas just is a minor footnote in the story that doesn't have much of a connection to anything else. I mean, sure, Santa Claus is the one that gets interested in Tom's idea of giant toy soldiers and tells him to make 1,000 of them, but again, that still feels like a minor plot point, because he could have brought this idea up with, a big name toy company executive somewhere else, and they could have liked the idea and been like, yeah, you should make 1,000 of these, we'll use it as a test run, some market to see if, we can sell these to rich kids or something, so just make 1,000 of them, we'll see how those sell. So you could replace Santa with just basically any generic toy seller and probably been fine. So that's another problem I have with the film. It has a connection to Christmas that's very, very tenuous. I mean, I thought Gremlins' connection to Christmas was tenuous, with Gizmo being a Christmas present, that being basically the only real connection, because everything else, well, let's face it, it's a classic, horror film played up for some laughs. But even so, I still usually consider it my favorite Christmas movie, because Christmas is at least, central to the plot, at least to a certain extent. With Babes in Toyland, that's not really the case here. As for my biggest gripe about the film, I'd probably have to go with the look. I'm just not too fond of some of the artistic designs when it comes to the characters. For the most part, they're okay, but there's some scenes where the characters feel rather distorted in somewhat cartoonish ways that just doesn't really appeal to me. And my biggest bright side of the film would probably be the final battle with the Goblin King and his minions. Though I probably could also gripe about those guys for a little bit as well, because the Goblin King just looks like a very generic demon. He looks like a very, generic Satan almost. There's just nothing really about him that screams, Goblin. It's just like, you're a generic demon or Satan wannabe. I mean, a purple one, but, rather generic looking demon nonetheless. The same problem applies to his minions that look like very generic purple imps. These don't look like goblins, because in all the fantasy settings I've seen, goblins do not look like this. Like, you can look at Harry Potter, you can look at D&D, you can look at, all kinds of stories that have goblins in them, and goblins are not usually purple flying creatures. It's a weird adaptation, But I think the biggest bright spot has to be watching the Goblins, involving the Goblins, has to be watching the Goblins chase Barnaby out of town. With the implication that if they catch him, they're gonna kill him. I'm not sure if I should applaud them, for leaving that so vague so you can make up your own mind on how they do it. Or if I should be disappointed that they don't show him getting killed, on screen, even through shadows or something like Scar does in The Lion King. Like, we're gonna imply he dies, but you can still believe if you want that he managed to run away fast enough to escape. Because the goblins in this film, are weak to light. I mean, you can actually defeat the Goblin King by just pointing like a dozen flashlights at him. This will actually kill him and turn him into purple ooze. Which, again, makes me think of what happens to the gremlins when they die. And they just melt away in the sun, So, yeah. The goblins in this film seem to have more of a connection with gremlins than goblins. It's very weird. But yeah, like I said, overall, it's an alright film. I mean, your mileage might vary. So I'd say check it out if you want to. But if you were looking for an accurate adaptation of the source material, just stay away. Because you're going to be really disappointed. Till next time, then. See ya.